Hey, welcome to another update on Archmage Rises, the closest you can get to tabletop role-playing. That's right. What?
Without any friends.
Oh yeah, without friends. Which I've all lost. And and that's why I had to make this game, because no one will play with me anymore.
That's so sad.
I know. My life is quite sad. But I've done something about it. I have 3 small children, and they are forced to be in my games that I GM.
Nice. Captive audience.
Yeah, actually, I think I told you that before, Nick, that I use my GMing skills on my children. Mm-hmm. And it works quite effectively. I haven't introduced dice yet, but I just figured since Tolkien would make up stories for his children as they were going to bed and whatever, like rather than reading a story, he'd make up stories. And I was like, hey, I could run a little adventure for my 4-year-old and 2-year-old. And so we had just made ice cream that night when I was putting them to bed. They didn't want me to read a story. They wanted to play Princess Claire and Princess Avery. That's what we call the game, Princess Claire and Princess Avery. So they wanted to play that as their bedtime story, and I was like, okay, sure, fine. And so the story was that Princess Claire and Princess Avery want to make the greatest ice cream ever, and that was the adventure they had to go on. They had to get 2 things. They had to get special milk from a purple cow. That's called moon milk, because the purple cow is only out at midnight, and he's invisible until the moon is right at its zenith, and then you can see the purple cow and get it.
You gotta milk it real fast.
Yeah, except they're just little kids, right? So I can't really have any difficult like problems or anything. So basically, It's like, they're like, and then the other thing they needed was the coldest ice on Earth, which is at the top of some mountain or whatever. I'm like, which one do you want to get? And they're like, we want to go to the purple cow. And I was like, okay. So they made it to the purple cow, and then I didn't actually plan to share any of this with you and everyone. But anyway, maybe there's some dads out there that'll appreciate this. So anyway, so they see the purple cow, right? They wait around. Okay, it's midnight. And then I'm like, okay, what are you going to do to get the milk? And Claire, who's 4, is like, I'm just going to go ask him, hey, cow, can I have your milk? And as a GM, I'm like, okay, critical success. So yes, The cow's moo, Claire, you can have my milk. And then she's like, yay. But then they didn't have buckets.
Uh-oh.
And they're like, oh no, we don't have buckets. And then that created a little side quest. They had to go get buckets. And then they had to wait around for the cow again. Anyway, it's basically Dungeons and Dragons without the die rolling.
That sounds pretty good.
Yeah, and nobody ever accomplishes anything. It's just a whole lot of just stuff, just like D&D. Well, that had nothing to do with anything. So let's move on to the actual reason that we're doing this. So I am leaving for Gen Con tomorrow. That's why we're talking about this. So use your GM skills in fatherhood. That's the point. So tomorrow I'm leaving for Gen Con, going to be there. So we're recording this early in the week. And so nothing has happened since our last update. Basically, the video came out yesterday, and now we're shooting another one today. Nothing has happened. So I figured it was a good opportunity to do a Fanisode. That's right, a Fanisode.
Nice.
Nick can't stand that name, but I will continue to use it. A Fanisode. Okay, so this is for the fans, and we answer your questions. So, Nick, you got some questions from the fans?
I sure do. So Game Boon Treehugger, fabulous name, asks, concerning history generation, what will that work similar to the way that it works in Dwarf Fortress? Can you elaborate?
Yes, good question. So, I haven't played Dwarf Fortress in many years, and the reason is because it's so hard. But I did play it, and I was really amazed at it, and I was like, wow, this is really awesome. I listened to a podcast where I forget the guy's name. It's not Turin, it's like Torn, or I don't know. Anyways, listening to him talk about it and stuff, and how he was, they were simulating the clouds and the temperatures of the clouds in order to do rainfall. And I was like, this guy's never going to finish his game. There's no way he is ever going to finish all of his features. And then he later talked about his 20-year roadmap for Dwarf Fortress. And I was like, wow, I'm right. He is never going to finish his game. But
well, in 20 years.
Anything could happen in 20 years.
That's right.
Maybe he's just waiting for the processing power in order to, finish the game. But anyways, he makes enough through people buying it right now. Or no, donations. That's what it is. He makes enough through donations to continue on. Anyway, so So there are definitely a lot of elements of Dwarf Fortress that have inspired me, and just the idea that it's in a sense a hostile world, like meaning that the world is just there and follows the rules. That's it. Like it's not your friend. It's not necessarily a foe. It just is, and you have to work your way through that. So Dwarf Fortress has the whole simulator side that you can play. And that was built in order to create a history for a world in order for you to go adventure gaming in, like to play a role-playing game inside of. I don't know if adventure mode has ever been done or play. I never played adventure mode. I only played the simulator mode. And so that really created an idea. When I was working on Archmage, I was like, hey, I can make it like Dwarf Fortress, where we can generate a world from nothing, including generating the landscape, just like Civilization, plopping down cities, which Dwarf Fortress has, but I think we go further on the city side. Well, I'm no Dwarf Fortress expert, but I think that we do. So anyway, they putting down the cities, linking them up with roads, and then having hundreds of years go by from which we create families. And the reason that certain families have nobility is because their family was a mayor in the past, and then that nobility has just continued on. You have families that go destitute, families that strike it rich, and so by the time the player shows up, this world is lived in. Like it's there, it's grimy, there's lots of things that have already occurred, and Nick and Thomas didn't have to make any of them. And that's really the whole goal here, was to make a world generator so that Nick and Thomas don't have to make a world.
Yeah, well, we want to make a game that we can play too. And if we design every single thing, then it's not going to be exciting. So we want to enjoy it as well. So allowing a lot of complex things to happen in history generation is important, as important to us as it is to you, I think.
Yeah, and so the second part of that is the monsters and how they are there. So we seed the world with monsters. So we say, okay, hill giants start here, goblins start there, giant spiders start there. They're all randomized locations. And there's certain rules to them as to how they spread, who they like, who they don't like, the radius in which they patrol and roam around their lairs, all this stuff. So it could be by the time the player shows up, all the goblins are gone. There are no goblins in the world. And that to me is super interesting. Like that makes the game what I call unwikiable, because you could be reading all the stuff and you're like, I don't see any of these goblins they keep talking about. And the answer is because in your world, they got wiped out by the hill giants, or they got wiped out by the humans, or whatever. Like, there's like one layer, and then year 2, a meteor comes and just happens to strike that layer, and then that's it. There's no more goblins. So that to me is really interesting. So every time you play the world, like one world could be overrun with goblins, another world they don't even exist. And so we haven't nailed down exactly how many years of history it's going to generate, but it's probably, I've been working on it, it's somewhere around 500 years or so of history. Just get like a lot of generations in there, and a lot of things happening, and a lot of locations that are like created and then destroyed. Like, so when a layer gets wiped out, it still is there in the game world to be found. So we need enough history in order to create enough stuff for you to go. Actually, to create too much stuff that you can't find it all.
Right.
That's kind of the goal. So somewhere around 500 years of history. So I hope that answers his question.
Yeah, the next question he had was, as far as quest goes, I understand you're working on the UI, but I was wondering if there are more quest types planned at the moment.
I don't know what he's complaining about. I mean, there's one quest type. You know how to do it. Go find the cup of love and bring it back. Like, what's wrong with it? Okay. So, officially, there are 5 kinds of quests. And I'm talking about any role-playing game. Any quest can be boiled down to these 5 types of quests. And now this is going to be a real test of my memory. What the 5 types are. They are fetch quest, go get something. Defend quest, go defend something against attack. Attack quest, go like kill something. Escort, go follow or take this person to something. And what's the last one?
Delivery, maybe?
I didn't start with that one? Oh, yeah. There's delivery and there's fetch. Those are different. And then there's people that say, those aren't really 5 different types. There's only 3 different types. Because defend is... escort is really just defend that moves. And delivery and fetch is a kind of delivery. It's like, go get the thing and then deliver it to me, as opposed to take this thing and deliver it to someone else. So anyway, there's arguments about whether there's really 3 quest types or 5 quest types. The real answer is Archmage Rises will have all 5 quest types. And we need the world to simulate and the people to be realistic in order to generate the 5 kinds. So an example of a attack quest would be, hey, we found out there's a goblin lair not too far away from us. Go wipe it out. That's an attack quest. Or, hey, the sheriff won't keep his dirty paws off me. Go take him out. That's also an attack quest. And so there's, a variety of quests that will be generated in the world. So what you play in the pre-alpha is we just got something going so that you had anything to do. Right.
Yeah, and I think the interesting thing about that is not as much of the variety of quests, but why they are generated. You know, if a noble has a real problem, he's trying to solve that problem by creating the quest. So hopefully that causes the characters to feel more alive, because they really do have these problems. We didn't just generate it. You know, the goal is not to generate it as you talk to him, but already have a problem that he's looking for people to solve.
Yeah. And if you're going to answer these questions better than me, then I'm just not going to answer them. But on top of that, there are NPC adventurers that go and complete the quests, because otherwise the world would ground to a halt when you have so many towns that are maybe under threat of goblin, or there's banditry or whatever. Like, the player can't do it all, and the player can choose not to do it all. And so the world would just fall apart if there weren't other people that were adventuring and doing that. And so I like that, because it solves a problem that we have technically about, like, oh crap, the world is falling apart without the player. And the second thing is it creates a rivalry with the player. Like, so it's like you go to do a quest and some NPC does it before you because you were off screwing around or something. I just think that's cool. That creates some interesting player stories.
Yeah, if you're a hermit in a hobbit hole, we still need the goblins to at least get, they need to fight back against the goblins, whether you're helping or not.
Right.
Okay, next question is by, I think it's pronounced Her Schwan.
Probably Air Schwan.
Air Schwan. Is there the existence of higher powers? Gods, demons, fey rulers, elementals?
I wish they wouldn't ask questions like this, getting into all the secret stuff. The response on Steam from someone else was, they haven't actually said anything about this kind of stuff. That's because it's a secret. Shh. But since there's only 4 people that watch these videos, and one of them is here, Nick, did you watch the fishing episode yet?
No, I haven't.
No, busted.
I was there.
I was busting your balls last time, and you still haven't watched the fishing episode. Anyway, so since there's only 3 people that watch these, I will answer some of that. So we haven't talked about this, have we, Nick?
We've talked about a little bit, but not much.
So there are religions in the world of Valen, and they have real supernatural beings behind them. And that's all I'm going to say about that. And you can have encounters with those supernatural beings, and it's all very secret. And I really wanted that to be something that surprised a player. They're like, they're tootling around, they're playing, and all of a sudden they meet a god. Like, that's like, what? That's insane. So that's why I'm not going to say any more about that.
Okay, next question from Schwan is, how does the politics between cities matter, and what role can the player play in their wars? Can the player participate in attacks and defense of cities?
Yeah, so he wrote a bit of a longer thing on Steam forums. That was kind of the summary version. So the role that the player plays in the politics is the towns have mayors, and they're in power for some period of time. They can be overthrown due to unrest. They can be assassinated. They can die of natural causes. Those mayors will have agendas that they're trying to achieve, and they will have a personality that could drive other mayors batty. So So that's going to create the friction between the towns, and trade can exist, and things are good, or trade can be cut off, and armies sent. And so that's where we have what I call army battles, army level battles, as opposed to like a single person attacking another single person. And so the player, depending on their allegiances, and these are all decisions that you make as you play as to which lord you're going to align with, but based on your allegiance, you may be called to battle, either to attack or defend. Now, we haven't talked about or shown any of the army level combat that's in the game, but there is another level of combat called army level combat, which plays out more like, if anybody's played Pillars of Eternity, and I think a lot of you have these kind of Twine-ish moments where it's choose your own adventure, and you're like choosing making some choices. There's some graphics on the screen, and you make some choices. So we're kind of going down that path, and that would be the army level thing. And you can see like up in the top corner, number of troops on your side, number of troops on their side, whether they have mages and you have mages, and you can make choices to get rid of their mages. You can make choices in order to try and blow up their troops, try to protect your troops from their mages and stuff. And so you will be able to participate in these army battles. And so if your town lord is being attacked, he will call you to defend, and if you don't show up, that's going to be real bad for you in that relationship and in your your fame in that town and that kind of stuff. So those are choices that you have to make.
Okay. Will Sama asks for the details on the character screen to be split up into combat and non-combat.
Yes, so it's going to be Christmas time here in August. We are going to just give you whatever you want. And so we're just handing out presents like Santa Claus. So Will was looking at our character sheet design. He was like, hey, it'd be great to split up these types of buffs or values. And so he's right. So we're going to do that. So we're going to split them up into two parts, kind of the combat-oriented ones and the more world-level-oriented ones.
Okay.
So Will, you get that.
Yeah, that sounds cool. I guess there could be some questions.
I haven't told Nick. But
yeah, I'm learning. Some of those things, it seems like, might be those stats might be related to both. Like I don't know, survival or something there might be some stats associated with combat. So I'm not sure where we put that, but yeah, a lot of them could probably be split up. Next question by Dero28. Open journal like Neverwinter 1.
Yeah,
I believe that's what NW1 is.
Good job, Nick. You're not even much of a role player, and you got that one.
I played that game.
Okay, that's cool. Yeah, Neverwinter Nights is a good game. Very ambitious. So, based on what this guy was seeing in our UI and dev updates, he said, hey, it sure would be handy if there was like a freeform journal I could write notes to myself. Or write notes about things. And you know what? I've always found that to be true when I'm playing a game. For me, Sid Meier's Colonization, I have to write so many notes to myself when I play that game. I wish they would have just built it in, and then it's part of your save file and stuff. So, we're going to do that. We're going to add that in. So thanks for bringing that up.
Thanks for making more work for me, D-Row.
Oh, yeah. Also, I didn't tell Nick yet. So that's why we get him on the line. And... we should call this section, instead of Christmas in August, it's like Make Work for Nick.
That's right.
Now it's time for Make Work for Nick.
Okay, next question is about the schedule. Will Sama says, basically said that it's going to be an early October build for Build 11.
And, Will, I guess, has been following this game for quite a while. We appreciate you, and even if for the new people that are just started following the game, we appreciate you too. And so Will is saying, I think realistically you guys aren't going to get a build out till October, and I think he's right. So seems like Will's more in the know than Nick or I are.
Will knows what's going on.
Yeah, Will knows what's going on. So anyways, we are trying hard to get a build out for early September. But if it doesn't happen until early October, it doesn't happen until early October. Nobody wants a crappy build. Can I hear that out there? Right? Nobody wants a crappy build. So we're going to work hard and make sure that it's good And if it takes a little longer to make it good, then it takes a little longer to make it good.
Mm-hmm.
Thanks, everybody. And I am heading off to Gen Con, and I will see you post Gen Con. And I'm pretty excited that Paizo is releasing a new role-playing game. Nick, did you know that?
I didn't.
Yeah. So Paizo makes Pathfinder, and now they're releasing a whole new role-playing game system. And
Interesting.
It's sci-fi.
Ooh. I like me some sci-fi.
Yes, you do.
If you see Thomas at Gen Con, punch him in the shoulder and say it was from Nick.
Oh, no. Actually, this won't go up until Gen Con's over. So, yeah,
No.
sure. Just do whatever he said. Okay, well, goodbye, everybody.
All right, bye.